Do what you can.
Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Arcade with Alvin. Today we'll be making the premium meatball from Dragon Ball Z Kakarot the game. We won't be making the entire meat course, but I am most fascinated about this giant pork meat bowl looking situation in the middle, which I'm guessing takes inspiration from butadon, a Japanese dish that involves grilled pork with a sauce over rice. But since this is a premium meat version, we made sure to source some pretty good pork belly, Kurobuta pork belly, or black pig, or Berkshire pig. So we're going to take this entire slab of beautiful pork belly that has the skin removed and cut this into relatively thick slices. If you're eating a premium meatball, I'd like to think that you'd want to enjoy a thicker, juicier cut of meat versus a thinner slice. So after dividing about 5 pounds of pork into nice half-inch thick slices, we're going to set this aside and first cook some rice. We need to make enough rice for a Saiyan, not just a regular human being, so we're going to need a lot of rice, probably about 3 rice cookers worth. Now, onto grilling all of this meat. Now, a nice griddle pan that is flat and large seems like the best utility for this amount of protein that we have available today. So we're going to lay our slices in a diagonal pattern all across the board and cook them for about 5 minutes on each side at a medium-high heat until it is time to flip. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of Korean barbecue, and if I'm being honest again, I wish all of my Korean barbecue adventures looked like this. After we give these pork belly a nice flip, I realized that actually the griddle pan with the markings may not be as effective for this kind of meat, as I do want more fat to render out. It's getting some nice char marks, but a lot of the fat didn't seem to be coming out as I thought. So we're going to set half of the batch aside and switch over to pans for the second one to see how the results fare. Same thing, we're going to go in a carbon steel pan and cook on a medium-high to high heat for about 5 minutes on each side and flip, repeating on the other side until nice and evenly brown. To my surprise, this method, at least personally, is a better way of searing a pork belly in a more even fashion. The fat does render out quicker, which in turn also helps cook the rest of the pork evenly and get a more even browning on all sides. On top of the meat mountain seen in the game is perched a little soft-boiled egg cut cleanly right in half. So we are going to make 2 soft-boiled eggs, one for the bowl and one for me to eat off camera. Boiling water, 2 eggs, 6.5 minutes on the dot. Simple as that. After 6.5 minutes are up, the eggs are promptly extracted from their hot water bath and into an extremely cold water bath, often lined with ice, and shock the shells away from the eggs inside. Pretty foolproof method. Works 100% of the time, 100% of the time. Now, this isn't really visible in the game, but I'm assuming with a bowl that includes so much fatty pork and rice that it would be really enjoyable to have a almost acidic component to go with the meat and the rice to help Goku eat this a lot faster. For someone who eats as much as he does, I'm sure eating too much fat and rice would slow him down in combat, and I don't want that happening. So I'm going to improvise and start with a whole large onion, roughly chopped up into small pieces and caramelized in 2 tablespoons of butter over medium heat for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once these are looking brown and slightly charred, I'm going to throw in a 1/4 cup of honey done in drizzles, along with a 1/4 cup of rice vinegar. This is followed by 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Once this has reduced into a slightly thick but still saucy onion jam almost, we're going to take this off and set this aside for later. Now, time to make the glaze for our pork belly. Into a large pan, we're going to make a wet caramel, starting with 400 grams of white sugar and 2 cups of water, bringing this to a boil and letting this sort of sit and bubble until it turns into an amber color. Once this is on the point of turning a little too dark brown and getting burnt, we're going to add in another cup of water just to dilute this a little bit. After our angry caramel settles down a bit, we're going to add in 200 milliliters of soy sauce, a 1/4 cup of sake, a 1/4 cup of meating, and 1/2 cup of honey. Once everybody has become good friends, our pork is going to enter and take a nice little bath in this deep and flavorful sauce. And since there's so much, I decided to split this up between 2 pans and let, bath A and bath B have their equal share of pork. I'm letting this cook for about 5 minutes on a medium heat, just so that the sauce can reduce a little bit more and the pork has time to reheat and absorb all this delicious glaze that we're making for it. At some point, I'm a little concerned that one is evaporating faster than the other. So just to be fair and have this on an even playing ground, we're going to put all the pork into one giant pot and give it a nice stir until everybody gets the same amount of glaze. Problem solved. Now, while I have been working on this pork, Rachel has been diligently working behind the scenes to get 3 rice cookers full of rice prepared prepared for us. So we have in a large stainless steel bowl 3 entire rice cooker fulls of rice, freshly fluffed, cooked, and steamed. Now, to assemble the pork bowl, we're going to start by layering in our rice first, creating a little bit of a mountain so that we have somewhere to rest our pork slices. Onto the peak of this mountain, we're going to slowly ladle and evenly distribute our acidic onion jam, flavored with rice vinegar, honey, and a little bit of soy. And now we begin a game of meat Tetris in such an even fashion so that we get all of the pork onto this without any single thing falling over. I guess that's more like Jenga. I decided to go with a rotational approach, assembling the pork in concentric rings and building up into a peak in the middle. The strategy seems to be quite successful. For our garnish, I'm slicing up 1 green onion for color and a little bit of flavor, I guess. Scallions go right on, sprinkled in an even shower, and in the middle, right on top, goes our perfectly cooked soft-boiled egg, bisected. And I present to you our version of the premium meatball from Dragon Ball Z. The best part about making stuff like this is, well, we get to eat it. I'm not really surprised, but it is pretty good. You have really fatty pork, a nice sauce that goes with it, and my favorite part is actually that oniony jam that's really acidic and strong that really helps the rice and the pork go down. Meanwhile, I will need to share the fruits of our labor as I'm not a Super Saiyan and do not have the stomach enough to finish this entire thing. So I will call upon Rachel and Steve to help me out here. Mostly Steve though. He can really do some work. I think he took about 90% of this home afterwards and ate it all. Maybe he's the Saiyan around here.